starting the stream to YouTube, and let me check the health. All right, the health is good. We just got excellent connection.
If you want to pass the YouTube link to me, then I'll post it in the Telegram channel and update the agenda.
All right. Oh, I should do this through Zoom, shouldn't I?
Oh, whatever. Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
And welcome to the Permissionless Software Comm meeting. Anybody on YouTube? Hopefully you're seeing us right. And looks like we're live and the stream's going well. So
Right on. Yeah, I just pulled it up as well.
And let's hide the chat here. All right. David, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can.
All right. Welcome to this week's 6/2/21. Man, the year's going by fast. This is the Comm meeting for the PSF. And why don't we go ahead and do some introductions here. And we'll start with Chris there.
I'm Chris Troutner. I'm a founder of the Permissionless Software Foundation, and I maintain fullstack.cash, blockchain as a service. Yeah, I'll leave it there.
David?
My name is David R. Allen, and I am helping the PSF with business development.
All right. Daniel, you want to?
Hey, I'm Daniel. I'm a software developer working with the helping on the front end and other areas of the PSF.
All right. And Don?
I'm Don, VIP member of the PSF. I'm also a general manager at Ava Labs, now a TikToker and a DeFi degen.
Nice. And I'm Aaron Shoemaker. I'm chairing up the Comm meeting for today. I'm working with the PSF on the business dev side and the development side, and I do 360 video and stuff like that. I think my camera's disappeared into the green screen today, but that is just fine. So let's go ahead and take a look at the agenda for today, and let me pop up that window. There we go. Sorry, got to get this over here. So for the community meeting today, we are looking at a few things. One is we want to talk about expanding our reach through other online platforms and content. And we're looking to expand we want to hear from the community what are some video platforms, some podcasting platforms, some blogs that you guys are on that you think we should be on that would help us to expand the reach of the PSF, basically. So with that, what do you guys think? What do you guys know about? And what are some suggestions you have?
Well, it might be helpful just to start by recapping some of the successes we've already had or inroads we've made. So we've been doing the Zoom meetings, and then we figured out how to live stream the Zoom meetings to YouTube. And then you've been uploading the YouTube videos to Odyssey. So those are things bases we've already got covered. And some of the ideas we've kicked around that would be sort of low effort would be essentially just stripping the audio off of the YouTube and then publishing them as a separate podcast. That's definitely starting to get into the areas where I'm ignorant. I don't even know what that requirement would be, but I sure like the idea.
Yeah, a podcast would be good, and that's where we'd love to hear from community members. What are some podcasting sites you're listening to? There's the standard ones like Apple and Spotify and stuff like that, but I know there's other ones that probably people in the crypto community are listening to that are more specialized, and we'd love to be able to hit those up as well. So if you want to write us in the Telegram or email us, we would love to hear some of those things. And Don, you're a young guy, compared to me. I just turned 40 yesterday. Well, 37, but officially 40. So are there any podcasting platforms that you're aware of that you think we should be hitting up?
I honestly don't know anything on the fringe. I mean, the platforms have kind of like dominated. Spotify is basically, the king. So not too much.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like Spotify and iTunes would probably be good to hit up, as well as there are other video platforms like Brand New Tube, BitChute, BitTuber, stuff like that. And we could easily set up something to spread our reach and hopefully get more people knowing about the PSF.
I noticed that Pandora.com just recently started introducing podcasts. So that might be something worth checking out. Because it's new, it might be easier to get into. And then I'll throw sort of an oddball one out there. Is my favorite way to consume podcasts is castbox.fm. They've got the phone app, but it's also just a website. And I love any service that you can pipe over a website, because that means there's no software to install. You just go to the website.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of Castbox FM, but they largely like resyndicate more popular podcasts, and they tend to be sort of delayed. I don't know exactly how their business model works.
What website did you say that was?
Castbox.fm.
All right. So
one really good option could definitely be like this new Twitter Live feature. I'm not really sure what it's called, Twitter Rooms or something like that. It's a lot like Clubhouse, except you don't have to download a dedicated app. So whenever somebody is live, just like you have the fleets up top, it goes to the very first section. Like if anyone's live, it pops up on the forefront. So between Twitter followers, if we were to kind of like mirror over and have it broadcasting on Twitter, I think that would be really good.
Yeah,
that reminds me of that premiere feature on YouTube. If we could find a way to leverage that, because that really brings the feed right up to the front in the top.
Mm-hmm. And
when we're live like this.
And that'll be something I'm looking into as well, because I think we can schedule the feeds, and then once you schedule the feeds, it helps to do that premiere, and then we can just go from there. Because right now we're just kind of broadcasting straight to YouTube, whereas if we schedule those feeds, like you said, people know about them. They know about them weeks in advance. They can see that they're coming. If they're subscribed to us, they're going to see them at the top of their subscription channel, that sort of thing. And I'm going to be looking at some of the other places that we can live stream, because we can simulcast to Facebook, we can probably try to get Odyssey to let us live stream. That'd be nice. And there's a few other places that we can live stream. So hopefully we can broadcast these meetings to multi-platforms at once. And if we could do that in a podcast form too, that'd be great.
Yeah. I'm really happy on the topic of this sort of media outreach. I'm really happy with the quality that we have, and because YouTube's sort of the mainstream video platform, so we kind of need to be there for the mainstream. But then I'm really, really happy with the progress we've made with replicating our videos onto Odyssey, because there's a good chance that we could get banned on YouTube just because we're crypto advocates, and they could just decide they don't like us anymore.
Oh, crypto's dangerous, don't you know?
Exactly.
Only criminals use crypto.
So I think anything else, as far as I'm concerned, beyond YouTube and Odyssey is sort of icing on the cake. I think those having the mainstream platform and the sort of rebel backup fallback platform is key.
Well, I think this leads a little bit into this next thing that we were going to talk about. Chris and I have been spending a lot of time talking about lately this crypto programmer and manager certification, and I posted a suggested reading, and here I'll pop up. Chris, you suggested this to me. Working in public, making and maintaining open source software. This is the suggested reading for anybody in the PSF this week. We're not saying you have to read it, but it is a good read for the problems that open source has right now. And so, Chris, do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, just to give a little more backstory on this book and why it's so important. So our governance structure, the meeting we're in, the CommCom, and its sister organization committee, the technical steering committee, these concepts, these governing concepts, are adopted from the Node.js Foundation. And the Node.js Foundation was largely started by Mikhail Rogers. And this book, Working in Public, which was written by Nadia Ekbal, was largely inspired. I consider Mikhail and Nadia, they're both friends, and they share a lot of ideas back and forth. I consider them to be the thought leaders in the space of open source communities and building open source communities, sustainably funding open source infrastructure. That's a really big idea, and it's a deep idea, and those two are kind of at the forefront of it. And Nadia is an amazing researcher who's published books and research over the last few years, and every time she does a book like this, it's just so much better than the last one. So many more insights, so much more revealing. She's put so many more puzzle pieces together. And Working in Public is her most recent book, and it's, I think, her magnum opus. If anyone sees that, sort of, if they believe that software is eating the world, and then they take it one step further and they believe that open source is eating the software world, then it's not a big jump to understand that underfunded open source infrastructure, which runs the internet, is a big social problem that still needs to be solved. And it's a problem that encompasses the entire cryptocurrency space. It's something that we all deal with in the cryptocurrency space, but it's much bigger than just the cryptocurrency space. And so Working in Public has a lot of solutions to these problems. And the reason that she has these solutions that nobody else has is because she's been able to think about the problem differently. And that's largely what Working in Public is all about. It's about getting you to understand the real problems, and not the ones that everybody says is the problem at face value. There's actually a deeper understanding required to solve these problems. And so that's sort of the why I think people should read Working in Public.
Now that is available on Audible or as a hardback cover, and it's not a long book at all. So if you guys get it on Audible, I made it through in like 2 days, just listening and doing stuff around the house. But this kind of, we were discussing stuff like this on Friday, Chris. You and I had a big, long talk, and we started coming up with this next idea that we want to talk about. So if you guys see on the screen here, I know you guys can't see him, but on YouTube you guys can see, we're talking about a sort of crypto programmer and management certification program. We're exploring the idea of creating a certification program for developers and entrepreneurs that are interested in exploring the space. The program would take people from a base knowledge to full expertise. The purpose is to allow us to foster a healthy community of knowledge and production while providing ways to solve the problems that come with open source maintenance. And this is a little bit about what we were talking about. And Chris, you and I, we really talked about maybe developing this tier program with badges that people can move up as they get more expertise. That helps us as the PSF to know where people are at, and helps people outside the PSF to know where these developers are at. And maybe you want to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, before we get into the mechanics, let's just explore like the why. Why is this a good idea? And so since it's hard to put like an exact date on when the PSF was founded, because it started out as like just a token research project, and then Daniel got involved, and then it just very slowly. So I don't know when the official like start point was, but throughout that journey, I've had conversations with many developers, developer organizations, single entrepreneurs, large companies, and the big when people first learn about the PSF, particularly entrepreneurs and companies, they think it's an engineering for hire company, and they're like, oh, this is great, you have expertise in crypto, can we hire some of your devs? And we don't work like that. We're not a company, we don't have managers, and we don't have employees, and we're more of an open source project where it's a very horizontal organization. People largely work based on intrinsic motivation rather than extrinsic motivation, although we're definitely have experimented by blending the two together. And the need remains that companies need developer resources. They need sort of pre-vetted, talented developers, and it's there's so much hype, and the people who actually need to hire the people to do something don't really understand what it is they want them to do. They have like this vague idea, like an outcome that they want to achieve, but they have no clue on how to screen a person and tell a good developer apart from a bad developer, or someone who's just, a snake oil salesman from someone who actually has real experience in the space. And so what this, in my mind, this certification process would be a self-paced way for developers to sort of pre-qualify themselves, to go through a set of standardized tests and prove that they have experience in specific niches within the crypto space, like tokens or NFTs or infrastructure, and sort of pre-qualify themselves, so that when we continue to get these questions of, oh, I want to hire developers, I need talented developers, can you recommend any? We can say, oh yeah, we have a roster of developers who have these badges, who have already like proven that they have a working knowledge of these areas that you need. Here you go. So it's a win-win-win, because it helps the people who need talented developers, it helps the developers with talent get hired, and it helps the PSF by just sort of helps everyone around the community by sort of just cutting through the hype and getting right to the meat of the situation.
And so one of the big things that we're looking at too is saying, all right, we have essentially 3 tiers, right? And think of it like Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts for anybody that went through that. You have your big time badges, the wolf badge, the bear badge, stuff like that. And then you have little merit badges that you get to achieve those bigger badges. And we kind of look at these 3 tiers the same way, where that first tier is people that are learning, improving themselves in the software, learning the values of the PSF and how we operate, how to do pull requests, and how to do commits, things like that. And that second tier is where people are more experienced, and they are deciding, because we talked about 3 tracks where we're focusing on front end, back end, and library. And so that second tier is where those people start to dive into that and decide where their specialty is going to lie. And the other good thing about that tier is I think this helps solve that open source problem where it's hard to get people to maintain the code. Well, this can be a place for that second tier to cut their teeth and be maintaining that code and help to solve some of those problems that we're looking at. And then as you move up to the higher tiers, you get up to somebody like Chris or Daniel, and you guys in those tiers are working on more specialized projects. But the other really cool thing about this is, and I wrote, and we could probably share this paper when we're ready, Chris. I wrote that I think there's three pillars to success here. There's learning, there's the knowledge of the individual developer, there's the production, what are you doing, what are you producing, and then there is teaching. And that's the third pillar, where as you move up higher, you actually teach the lower badges and those badges, and that reaffirms the teaching. Because I taught guitar. I come from a music background, and I'll tell you, I never got better at guitar than when I was teaching other people how to play. And so by doing this almost feedback mechanism, we're reinforcing developers in a way. And my hope is that eventually these badges can be looked at in the community at large as a badge of honor, or even a certificate of training, that sort of thing. So I think we're still hashing out a lot of it, and what exactly do the tiers look like? How do we test for them? How do we know when people are ready to move on? What are some good indicators? How do we bring in somebody that already has dev knowledge? Do they need to go through the early steps? And maybe there are some early steps they got to go through because Chris, you seem to have a very you like people to do things a certain way and make sure that it's right, and we want people to do that as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's well, okay, so I want to kind of respond to that, but we've talked about these tiers, and we've talked about that there's a conversation going on around this. So I want to take a minute here to make it clear for people on how they can join the conversation. If you go to fullstack.cash and you scroll down near the bottom, there's a new section that says what kind of developer are you? And then there's three that leads you to 3 pages: front end, back end, and library. So that's sort of the technical structure that we're talking about. That those are going to be fleshed out, but really there is a Google Doc that we've been fleshing out to sort of take that as an inspiration for these certification things. So if people want to join in this conversation, the best place to do it is in the PSF VIP room. We do have a Google Doc right now that we can share to VIP members, because we very much do want to get their input, and then we'll open it up to the larger community once the people with economic skin in the game and have had a chance to be heard.
Go easy on us.
But it is
rough.
very much a conversation.
It's
What's
a rough.
that?
It's a rough paper, so go easy on us. We're
We're
just
still very
starting.
much in the ideation phase.
Yeah. So
There is some free resource that we could take a look at. I don't know if you guys have heard of Free Code Camp. Is a set of something like you guys are telling. They offer certification for developers. They start as basic as HTML, and it's a series of quests like create that H1 tag, and the system verifies that you did it with a correct syntaxes and so on, and is really complete. It covers front end, back end, and it also the basics like Git and something like that. So we could.
What was that website again?
Let me type it here. It's Free Code Camp.
Free
Yeah.
Code Camp. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have heard of them.
Yeah.
And that's a great tip, Daniel, because we're looking for resources like that we can leverage as sort of a base knowledge.
Yes.
Like, because we want to focus on the cryptocurrency side of things. So
Mhm.
but people need to come with a base of knowledge. So yeah, we definitely want to leverage sites like Free Code Camp, where we can be like, if you don't have these skills, then you need to go back there and get those skills before you start our code path.
Well, and the idea is that we're talking about maybe doing about 9 badges right now and 3 tiers. And to get that first badge, you would have to have all that knowledge. You would have to have the HTML, the CSS, the JavaScript, just to get that first badge. And then you start working with we would be doing stuff like creating a token from the Cli wallet, creating an NFT token from the Cli wallet. And so that would be a place where somebody who's a higher up developer would be doing a live seminar with them, maybe through Zoom, and guiding them through, watching them do that, certifying that they did that, and then it got done. And that's great, So that Yeah, that's we're looking to set the baseline, and we're trying to figure out. Okay, we know where the top is. The top is Chris, you know. So we're looking at what's the baseline. You know, where do people enter, and then what do these other groups look like? And right now, we're talking about how so the colors we kind of have for the lower tier are like white, yellow, orange, and then that middle tier is like a green, cyan, purple. The colors don't matter where they're at, but the idea is that okay, that middle tier, you have all the basics. You're deciding your pathway, and by the time you're done with the middle tier, you will be a master at one of the things, either front end, back end, or library. And to ascend to the upper tier, you basically have to go back through the middle tier for the other two things. And that's where you get to that black level status of saying, I've now mastered everything, you know? So
yeah. And then that's a full stack developer at that point. You've mastered the full stack.
Yeah.
But yeah, just so the technical side of things is actually pretty straightforward in terms of, creating an SLP token, creating an NFT, doing very specific crypto things. That stuff I think we have a pretty good picture of. It's the quality control and the management. So I've been thinking a lot about how do you bootstrap a software company or a software team, and usually you would start with one person who would wear all the hats. They would be the lead developer, they'd be the manager, and they'd be the QA team all in one person. Then you add a second person, and it's kind of a senior junior developer relationship, and they work together to do QA. And it's small enough you don't really need any management. Then you add a third person, so then maybe you got a senior developer, junior developer, and a QA person, and and so eventually you have enough people where everyone can just wear one hat, and so what we're really like, where we're really trying to shape this is where the mentoring comes back in. It's like after you've gotten the technical skills, you go back and you teach someone else, you mentor someone else with these skills, and that does several things. It reinforces the education for yourself, but it also starts to impart this culture of quality. And what is good code and what is bad code. You can't really learn that in a vacuum. It requires, comparison and contrast of two coders working together in order to understand like what is good and what is bad, because it's all subjective, right? So you have to have something to compare it to. And so that's just a really important thing that the mentorship aspect of this, I think, speaks to. And then that also sort of naturally leads into more of a management education as well, because through that process, you have to gain interpersonal skills. You have to learn to communicate. You have to overcome, problems, technical problems and interpersonal problems. And so that's where I think it's harder to quantify those things. Like I said, the technical side of things is much easier to quantify, and we can just list out like they need to do, accomplish these things, and then you've proven that you can do them. So I'm really happy to, have Aaron's input and everyone's input on this in terms of really nailing down those other aspects, management and quality control, and how do we sort of quantify them and wrap some sort of standardized certification around that. That's kind of where the conversation is at right now, and I'm really happy with that.
So we are looking to do the same thing for the manager track, and looking and saying, okay, some people may want to be managers. How do we develop managers in that direction? And Don, this could be a great place for you to chime in and let us know, what are you looking at for managers? How can we develop those people? And we're looking at maybe starting off managers and developers in a similar path, but then branching them off so that both have an understanding of either as they're working together in the future, that sort of thing.
Ooh, gosh, put me in the spotlight. Honestly, like I hate to be like I don't know, to a question like that, but I'm not really sure. I've never been super good at managing people myself. I've just been like super lucky to get just like great people I work with. So honestly, I'm not sure.
Well, it's something to think about,
Yeah.
Well, I've been thinking about this too, and I'm starting to come to the conclusion that I mean, there are definitely objective skill sets that make a good manager, but there's also this subjective, non-quantifiable quality of passion or just caring, giving a shit, which you gain by mentoring people, by
Yeah.
achieving certifications and badges. Like it's almost like
Mm.
the more passion you show, the more passion you gain.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. Now you got me thinking about it. Whenever I'm, whenever I'm looking for people, to kind of like work under me, I always look for there's like a set number of tasks. It's like do this, this, and this. But I've always found it better to not exactly look at the set tasks, but look at the things that were done outside of the prescribed things to do. Because if they do extra, if they're looking forward to it, if they have a passion for it, they're always going to be better in the long term. Because it's not always just like doing the tasks. It's also like bringing in like your own experience and your own innovation, and that only comes if you give a shit, like Chris was just saying.
Yeah.
Like if you're there just to do ABC, you could do ABC, but you're never gonna like bring that ethereal, like magical quality that just brings innovation, which is like passion. It's all kind of the same thing.
Well, I think that's part of where we think these badges will help, because it's going to be an investment of yourself to get to these points, and it's going to help us to weed out people that are maybe fly by night,
Mm.
and also it's going to be that middle tier that does a bulk of the work.
Mm.
I envision in that upper middle tier for sure, like that upper part of the middle tier, because they're pretty much at the mastery level. And then, like Chris was saying the other day, maybe we want to test companies when they come in, and we don't want to give them our best developers because that is our reputation's on the line too, should the development project fail. So maybe we test them out with a middle tier developer and say, you work with us for 6 months, and if things go well, you'll get access to the higher tier developers, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's definitely you want to have a system that's not just as simple as like some ICO, let's say, with like a huge war chest just coming in and being able to buy like all your best developers.
Mm-hmm.
Like you want to have some sort of process that make sure it's a good fit for both, so it can't just be money.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more of a community relationship rather than a business
Mm-hmm.
relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's worth expanding on, because if I really do love this idea of like, yeah, if we have a gradient of skill sets, we'd have like some middle tier where we're like, okay, like the developers we're at a good point where the individual developers have proven their skill set, and some random entrepreneur or company like is looking for dev talent, and we can then put those together. But then there is like a more exclusive tier, which we're still fleshing out, where, like you just said, like, well, for a business to hire our higher level developers, they have to have more than just money. They need to actually start participating in the community,
Yeah.
in some way, and they have to have some sort of skin in the game, but also like a relationship with us, to get access to those higher level developers, because that protects both parties. It protects all parties involved, and it also gives these upper level developers a more incentive, just more perks.
And the fact that you can't buy these badges is another thing. Like, you have to prove yourself. That's a huge, huge thing, and it becomes a point of pride with people. And we've even talked about, Chris, like, giving out badges during CommCom meetings, or maybe as a separate thing, to really honor the people that go through this and say, this person achieved their red level badge status, and then have them on and have the community be able to rally around them and be like, great job, that's awesome. And like you're saying, Chris, it's just bringing it back to that sense of community.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you just said.
So
yeah, no, definitely. It's like when you have like streamers, interacting with the audience, giving little prizes here and there. Like even if you don't hold a seat, just that feeling of involvement, like you're part of a network.
And any book that's ever been written that's worth anything on the topic of management is going to call this out about how important it is to recognize successes publicly. It's a very non-quantifiable, subjective, but yet incredibly important thing, and it really emphasizes the fact that we're a community and not just a business. And there's also the other side of it. I'm a big fan of social shunning. I live on a remote island where financial incentives do not work. So if someone like abandons their car we have a dock and it has 4 parking spots, so there's only 4, and it's always packed in the summer, and somebody always inconveniences everyone else by parking overnight or just not following the rules. And what we found is much more effective than levying a fine, because this island's full of wealthy people. They have no problem paying fines. We take pictures and we post it on our Facebook page and we socially shun them. And that is so much more effective than a financial fine. And so, I don't want to dwell too much on the negative side, but this is almost like a polar opposite example. Like there's publicly acknowledging people's successes, and then there's also publicly acknowledging people's failures, which you shouldn't engage in very often, but both are incredibly effective. I think we can all think back on examples in our own lives where we've seen those be incredibly effective.
Chris, are you trying to make the PSF a cult? Because I'm hearing some.
Only if you're the cult leader, Don.
Well, not saying I have dreamed of it before. After I watched, the that whole Tiger Farm documentary.
Look, we didn't want to say this, but you can trade PSF tokens for grape Kool-Aid now. Yeah, this is again, to those of the community that are going to watch this afterwards. We are fleshing out these ideas. We would like to hear more from you. We do have more details. We don't want to necessarily go into them here. We want to get the idea out there, have you start thinking about it and coming back with your ideas. And you can write us in the Telegram chat, or hit us up, or send us a pigeon, whatever works for you. So do you have anything more you want to say on this, Chris, or should we get to the next topic?
Yeah, let's go ahead and move on. I think we've covered this pretty well.
All right. So the next topic we're going to look at, is news and development in the crypto space. And so this is something that I thought we'd just start doing at every CommCom meeting, because there is so much going on out there that we need your help as a community to keep track of it all. So is there any news that you guys have heard of, any new developments that you want to share with people?
Well, I had a couple things hit my radar in the last couple days. One is the Badger Mobile. So it's a mobile app, and it's a product that I used to work on with Vin Armani, and was owned by Bitcoin.com. And they've since passed the ownership of it to Vin Armani. And he just yesterday released a new version that has the post office protocol built into it. So there's only a handful of tokens, I think Spice and USDH and a couple others, that you can actually, you don't need any Bitcoin Cash to interact with it. It's like almost a native token experience where you can send and receive, say, like USDH or Spice token. And it's the idea is this onboarding new people in the crypto space, this crypto curious people who could easily get hung up on the details, that's the problem that this solves. Is they can just have this sort of native token experience where, and then they can ease into the greater concepts of Bitcoin Cash. They don't have to worry about their tokens getting stuck in their wallet because they don't have any Bitcoin Cash to pay the transaction fees. So that's kind of cool. I mean, I'm not super excited about it, but it's definitely something I'm keeping an eye on. This whole post office idea. And then also on the topic of some of the work that I've been watching Ben Armani do, they launched, I published a YouTube video on kind of kick the tires on this new software they released. It's just a graphical, or it's just a command line interface. They don't have the graphical interface done yet, but you can do a permissionless, trustless swap of SLP tokens. So I managed, and the PSF token is listed in their exchange. So I was able to directly exchange PSF tokens for Spice tokens and USDH tokens. So I didn't have to like go from the PSF token to BCH and the BCH to another token. I was able to go directly from the PSF token to USDH.
Yeah, I saw that video. So are they like a custodian? Like, are they holding tokens, or are they just connecting you with somebody else that holds tokens? How's that working?
Well, it's kind of a semi. So the protocol itself that does the actual exchange is trustless. The idea is that the software that you are running checks the transaction, and it's done in a way where you can't get screwed. Like you basically you have to you can check that the transaction's valid before you sign it and broadcast it. And so, but there is sort of a centralized element to it in that the current incarnation exists as a REST API, and so that could be censored like any normal REST API could. But the potential is there to be trustless and all on chain, so very uncensorable. I don't know if I really answered the question you asked, though.
Well, it sounds like there is still the centralization of the REST API, and maybe that'll get changed as you release the uncensorable JSON RPC,
Yeah, I actually was pointing them in that direction of like, if you guys are falling back to the REST API, because I get it, it's convenient. That's why everybody uses them. I was expecting, I think Vin has plans to do everything on chain. And I think that's what he would prefer to do. So I'm keeping an eye to see sort of what direction they head. But this is definitely, I'm really keeping an eye on it because it is a protocol. It's a permissionless protocol. And while they're not releasing all the source code to do everything, they are releasing the protocol as open source. So it would not be hard for us as an organization to code up some apps that can leverage the protocol and do our own thing. But the emphasis is really on permissionless, trustless, peer-to-peer exchange of tokens. So that's very well aligned with the PSF mission.
Nice. I saw that Monero now is doing atomic swaps with Bitcoin. Did you guys see that?
Mm-mm.
They're doing it through a CLI wallet. It's written in Rust. Here, I can pop it up for those who are on the YouTubes here. Let's see. And then I'll screen share with you guys and show you. This is they got a GitHub commit network XMR BTC swap protocol, and I'll drop this in the chat for you guys too. Let me go ahead and close that out on that side, and I'll go ahead and screen share with you guys this one. So that is, oh, and I just lost that. See, that's why I can't do that. You guys can see that. You guys on YouTube, hold on a second. Yeah, it's written in Rust. I don't know Rust, but I was going to start taking a look at it. I got to stop the screen share so that it goes out to YouTube the right way. Because
yeah, go ahead and focus on YouTube. Interesting. Yeah, there's definitely I find it really interesting, and it's I don't know what is a leading indicator and what's a lagging indicator here, but it seems that as the narrative around regulation is gaining momentum, I'm seeing more and more news that regulations coming for Bitcoin. It's not going to be banned; it's going to be regulated. More regulations coming. That's sort of the drumbeat I'm hearing right now.
Mm-hmm.
But as that narrative gains amplitude, I'm also seeing huge leaps in innovation around trustless cross-chain swaps. So you got the Thor chain that Eric Voorhees behind Shapeshift is really pushing. You've got this Monero swap. There's all these bridges coming up. There's the bridge between Ethereum and Avalanche. We're almost ready to launch our token bridge from Bitcoin Cash SLP tokens to Avalanche. So there's as the governments put the screws to the exchanges, because that's their only way to wrap some of their hand around the cryptocurrency space. I think the hardcore crypto people right now are just abandoning the use of exchanges. We're finding other ways to do that same thing, and so that we are not subject to this regulation.
Yeah. I want to take a look at it myself and maybe play with it. It's just a Cly wallet out there for anybody, so you can do stuff on the test net. Be careful, with anything of crypto. Be careful with it. I would recommend trying the test net out itself. But I would love to see something like that for BZH as well. Being able to do XMR swaps would be sweet. So.
Speaking of just, like this is the permissionless software foundation going towards that, like, like the end goal, is that infrastructure that basically is like indestructible, to lawmakers and people with guns. Have y'all seen anything? Because I've looked, is there anyone working on something meaningful for like the cash to crypto, gap that's just like always there?
Yeah.
Other than Bitcoin.com, like they've got a pretty nice setup, but
Well, that's what I was going to say is, local.bitcoin.com. I'm a big fan of the architecture, maybe not so much the execution. I mean, the execution doesn't suck, but I would just like to see that architecture repeated and competed. I'd like to see more people compete on this idea of the double blind escrow, which makes it really safe to on a peer-to-peer level exchange cash for crypto. I think it's kind of foolproof. I just the idea of escrow. I've always been trying to keep tabs on different implementations of an escrow system. But yeah, other than that, I mean, there's local Bitcoins that's been around forever. I haven't ever used them, so
that's how I got my Bitcoin originally in like 16. But they kind of like bent the knee to all like the KYC reg. I guess maybe the main, blocker is like who's got balls big enough to, say, fuck you, other than, Roger, because
yeah, this is actually one reason why I'm really excited about central bank digital currencies. Because there's two things here. There's getting the fiat into the crypto space and back, although I'm more concerned with the first one. And then there's getting people comfortable with working with digital currency. And so the governments appear to be prepared to do the heavy lifting on both of those fronts. In that and I think by far the biggest hurdle is getting people, like particularly like people over the age of 40, to get comfortable using digital money. It's just something that they're incredibly uncomfortable with. And so the governments are going to do that work for us over the next 5 years. And so once everybody's comfortable with digital currency, it's a much easier step to go from. And the other thing is, these central bank digital currencies, they're still inflationary, and one of the things that is attracting like China and the US towards these central bank digital currencies is their ability to target specific demographics. So they can be like, are you retired? Well, we don't really want you saving money, so we're going to give you a negative interest rate to encourage you to spend your money. Are you 20? Well, we're going to give you a better interest rate because we want you to save, so because you're in your working things, and here's a little stimulus, every once in a while, and here's $1,000, and if you don't use it in 30 days, it evaporates. These are the sorts of things that they can do with central bank digital currencies. And so if you're a 20-year-old and you're given $1,000 and you're told, if you don't spend this in 30 days, it's going to evaporate. And let's say you're okay, you don't need food, or whatever. What are you going to do with it? Well, a good portion of those people are going to buy a currency that doesn't evaporate with the currency that does evaporate. And so it'll be really pretty easy and straightforward at that point to convert your digital bank or your CBDC into a cryptocurrency.
I've been thinking about this problem of onboarding people as well, and it is a big issue. It's a big barrier, and it's a big barrier for a reason. The governments really don't want people to jump into this stuff, because once you're in there, it becomes incredibly easy to use. But I took like 3 or 4 hours onboarding a guy who's very technically proficient into just understanding all this stuff. And I do think there are other ways. I think tokenization is one of those ways that we can look into, businesses tokenizing and paying people in tokens and allowing them to cash out in like a paycheck, but allowing them to distribute those tokens. That can be one way. And that would be something where, you can cash out your tokens every 2 weeks, or you can sell them on the open market. And we talked about this a little bit, Chris, where it's kind of like that local currency idea,
Mm-hmm.
And once that gains enough use, people will begin to buy and sell into those tokens in order to transact in that local economy, because it just makes sense. It's really easy,
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's a way for onboarding. What you're saying makes sense for some onboarding. And then I really think these NFT protocols that we're looking to develop are also going to do it, because once we lock up NFTs, other people will lock up NFTs, and that's great, because this will create this incredibly huge market, and people will have to transact in cryptocurrencies to transact in this market. And
Mm-hmm.
the desire to get their favorite artist's album or artwork or anything like that is what's going to start it. And then it'll lead to other things. But yeah.
I think that's key is like, so let me try and summarize this, because I think there's 3 key parts here. Is like, on the face, the problem is, how do you get fiat into crypto or back the other way? But I think that the answer actually lies in 2 different trends. One is what you just said, which is there's going to be more and more stuff that people want to do in the crypto space. So that's going to drive people to the crypto space because they can do more and more things there. But the other side of it is that one of the trends, I mean, maybe I'm in a little bit of a bubble because I'm pushing this, but I think it is indicative of a wider trend where particularly Americans, that's what I can speak to because I'm an American and I'm in this culture, but I think it's probably the same everywhere else. Yeah, where there's a lot of fear about inflation and the ability to retain buying power. And so I'm seeing more and more people interested in just taking the fiat they have now, buying some crypto. They're totally fine with KYC, just so that they can sort of hedge their bet and stash it. That's why I'm a big fan of those laser etched cards, because you can just put your crypto on it and put it in the safe and treat it the same way you treat your guns and your gold. And what that does for people is that it lets them hedge their bet. They're straddling the fence. They have one foot in the fiat world and one foot in the crypto world. And so when something comes along and they want to say do something in the cryptocurrency, they're already preloaded and they're ready to go. But they're not, they can't totally get out of the fiat, and so they still have to have a big portion of their net worth in fiat, just because that's, any country you live in, you gotta have the local currency. And so if I'm right about that becoming a growing trend, then that really solves this initial problem of how do you get in and out of fiat, because then all of a sudden most of the people that you interact with on a daily basis have some crypto they can sell you. And then so that makes the problem kind of just largely go away, unless you're talking about, large sums. But I think most of the time you're talking about a small sum where you can just be like, hey, I need $100 in Bitcoin Cash. Like I know Steve down the road has some, so I'm just, going to go work out a deal with them real quick to get what I need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think Stables are really a killer app there, because right now, we're reversing a little bit, but the people that I know that buy crypto didn't stop, but they started buying stable coins. That way, whenever they feel comfortable, they can, hit that button. It's hard to take cash and then right then decide to buy in. So it's kind of like a middle piece. It's like, oh, I'll take my cash, buy stables. And then at that point, it takes 5 seconds to swap back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause you're already in.
Yeah,
but Aaron,
exactly.
You mentioned, like the, artists and stuff, using NFTs and like to getting into crypto in order to buy things. I think one of the major things is too is, earning, not just like buying stuff, but in my experience, people just want to get cash out. People are so interested in like themselves and their well-being. Like I've been waiting for so many years for somebody to actually finally get this video game NFT thing right, to create, these large secondary markets, but it just hasn't hit. But I saw a project the other day. It was by the guy that made, what's that VR world on Ethereum?
Decentraland or Super?
Yeah, is Decentraland. The guy that made that, there's a project called Big Time. And so it's a lot like Fortnite, and then it's, it's a competitive game, but the economy is based on like skins, and then, it'll have a secondary market for that. But I think, I always think targeting kids, to take like a really kind of like darkish approach, but you're always like wanting to like take like 8 to 12, 13, because those are, by the time, if you make something now or start, by the time you're finished, it's going to be those people that are comfortable with it that are going in. And so like getting kids in like these video games and like earning little bits of money, and getting the process started. Cause like as a kid, if you could, selling a skin for $8, doesn't seem like a big deal to you. But if you're 14 or 13, you'll grind and get those skins just to sell them for a couple bucks.
Oh no, you will. I've seen people spend a lot of money on skins, and being able to sell them, and that's part of the lockup protocol that we're talking about, where all right, you can lock these up, and your wallet in the game gives you access to these NFTs. And then you can sell that access, afterwards. And so
there's actually a project on Avalanche right now. It is gaming, but they have a farming type system. I'll have to find the name of it, where you can basically, in like a trustless way, rent out assets as a way to farm them. So, if it's like a game, like a card game, for instance, it's always the most simple version. It's like if there's a tournament coming up, you can, rent out your like high level cards and like farm a secondary token from it. It's pretty cool.
That is cool. Yeah. And I agree with you on the children's side, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's getting them acclimated. And I think we talked the other week, Stoyan was talking about bananas, and I was saying, I know my girls will do these art apps on the phone. They'll be like, look at this art app. And just a simple app like that, where they just do some art stuff, and then they can tokenize it and send it to their friend. Something that simple, where it's 2 buttons. They do it, They hit a button, it makes a token,
Mhm.
and they click on their friend's name, and it sends the token to them. They'd love that, you know.
Yeah. If you're talking about like a development like tier system, like we were, in the early stages of the stream, like that would definitely, do like a junior program
Mhm.
alongside that.
Yeah.
Could be absolutely killer.
Oh yeah, and I'm excited about the development program. I think we're going to be looking at doing, like I said, one for the managers, one for the developers, and really working for uh, having those managers be in the front-facing side of the PSF and working with clients and stuff like that, and then being able to come back and letting the developers develop, essentially,
Mhm.
you know. So, the one other thing, I don't know if you guys saw, but there was a big hack on the one of the largest meat producing plants,
Mhm.
and so of course there's going to be a rise in prices there, um, and inflation. But that brought me to something where I'm thinking, how can we utilize the tools we are building to help people on the production level so stuff like that isn't possible, you know? So I wanted to just put that question out there for people to start thinking about, because there are people that are in either community farmers or local butcher shops. And what happens, lots of people may not know this, but when these large production companies shut down, they buy up all the local butcher shop times,
Mhm.
making it almost impossible for regular people who bought a cow, or if they're a small sustainable farmer, to be
Mhm.
able to get their cow to slaughter so that they can make money on their product. Or and it happens in all the other farming industries and stuff like that. So I wanted to put this out there for the community to think about, what are some ways we might be able to start working with those groups to be able to bypass things when there's problems like this.
Well, one of the first apps that actually got the ball rolling on wallet.fullstack.cash was an app we tried to build for a guy in the BCH space. He goes by the handle Goat Farmer, and he had this idea, and what he envisioned was largely what ended up becoming Geodrop, the game that we entered for the hackathon, which unfortunately is down right now. It's on my to-do list to get that thing back up and running. But the idea behind the Geodrop game was that, like a coffee shop, it's like Pokemon Go, where if you're here at a coffee shop, you could drop these tokens around town for free coffee. It's a win-win for everybody. It's fun to play, and then they collect these tokens, can exchange it for coffee, and the coffee shop increases the business and advertises. He wanted to take that idea and apply it to local farms so that anybody could essentially just drop a pin saying, like, I've got extra, carrots, or I've got a bumper crop of potatoes. Like, come, here's what I'm offering them for. Or maybe like we could trade, using a local currency, so that if you have a surplus, you could simultaneously. I'm trying to do this with my own local currency here on my island, where it's backed by labor. So if you have a surplus of labor, you can turn that into the token, and then use that to spend the token later on other things that might not be directly connected. So it's one step above barter, but definitely a step below fiat. And
Those who are on YouTube, I've got geodrop.cash up, so you can look at this and check it out.
I'm pretty sure it's non-functional right now, so I'll have to apologize for that. But
I was
the
able to
other
get
thing,
it to work by changing the server to V4.
oh, okay, yeah, that's what it takes. It's pointing at the old
Yeah,
V3 version.
yeah. If you go to the about here, I'll just pull it up and show people. If you go to the about or the configure, there's this backend server here, and it'll naturally say V3. But if you change it to V4, I was able to get it to work and drop some pins.
Cool. So, so there's one big element that's missing to take that idea and convert it into what you're talking about, which is getting people to use more local resources and sort of chip away at this centralizing infrastructure, the
Yeah.
sort of centralizing force, like in the meat industry, or in virtually every industry we look at, is it's sort of consolidating and centralizing, is for lack of a better term, I'll call it uncensorable Craigslist. Is the ability to put up something for, like, just an advertisement saying, hey, I have a couch for sale for $200, or I have marijuana to sell, or I have unpasteurized milk to sell. Everyone has to sort of draw their line in the sand.
That's the line right there.
Yeah.
Raw milk. Oh God.
But
Yeah.
but the point is to have a place where people can put whatever advertisement up they want to put up, that while it can be filtered, it cannot be censored. And that's largely what I'm hoping to achieve with this pay to write database, is that missing piece where, hey, if you want to pay the money to put your ad up, then go for it. And the data's out there. People may not see it because whatever channel they're using, they'll probably use it because of the filters that they like. So it might be filtered, but it won't be censored.
Well, I
Right.
like the idea you have about GeoDrop and doing it with farmers. I actually had a very similar idea when I was like, I'd like to get some fresh farm eggs, but it's like, I don't know who has them right now. Oh, it'd be great to have an app where farmers can post, I got tomatoes right here. And but this could go to like gardens too, because a lot of people garden and then they have way too much produce, right? And they end up giving it away to their neighbors, and it would be nice for them to list on there, I got a bunch of cucumbers. Or think about these old ladies who had big families, and all their recipes are for like 5, 6 kids, And so instead of cutting the recipe down, they could make the recipe and then sell to-go orders of those, So people at work could go, oh, I can go get a home-cooked meal for $10. This lasagna, because she makes this giant plate of lasagna, and so, I mean, that's all on top of this idea that we're talking about. So,
Yeah, I tried to, it was about 2 weeks ago, go and search for one of the marketplace apps I used to use. I think it was called Let Go. But after kind of like looking at all these, different resale apps, basically like modern Craigslist, it became like very apparent that Facebook has just like dominated the market. And I'm like morally opposed to using Facebook. So I'm not going to use the marketplace. Other than just to, look at it, but I just hate them so much. But, it would, it's one of those things where, to make an app like that, you have to have like a massive amount of users. So, either an existing network like Facebook or, an absolute ton of marketing or to get the network. So if you had like Chris is saying, like a baseline of like, you can post anything and then have like different applications that can filter it. Like Chris was saying, livestock would be great because, Facebook doesn't allow livestock. So there's really not a really good mature application if you do want to sell some goats or some cows or like milk or anything like that. But I mean, I don't want to like join DPR or anything like that, but there's not really a good place to buy guns. Facebook Marketplace used to let you do it. But being Facebook, they left. But it would be really nice to have a place like that. I'm not sure how it affects with laws. I'm from Arkansas, so like here, there's like basically zero regulation. But I'm sure like in the rest of the country or whatever country you're from, but there's like 2 markets that could like easily be dropped into.
You're from
Well, I'll just
Arkansas, huh?
Yeah,
Dude,
I'm a hillbilly boy.
Your roads are nuts there. The the 2-lane roads that go to the 3rd lane with the passing. I drove on that going down to Florida this summer, and I was like white knuckling it. As they're really windy, but I think I was in like the southern part of Arkansas going through to Tennessee. They're so windy, and then they open up for passing on a 3rd lane, so you'll be going like around a curve up a hill, and then 2 cars are coming at you from the other side.
No, it's I like the roads here though. It's the other states that have it wrong. I go to like Texas or something and I see like a 14 lane
Oh, yeah.
road and I'm just like, what the hell? I don't I don't know how to navigate this.
They were waiting for the hovercrafts to come in, so they have a landing strip.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'll take this opportunity to plug the pay to web data to pay to write database for people who are interested in that. I did a tweet a couple days ago, so it's on my Twitter account at Chris Troutner, and I have a link to the JSON RPC documentation because it's actually live and up on chat.fullstack.cache. If you go there, one of the entities that will pop up after a few seconds is I don't know, IPFS P2WDB pay to write database dash service, and you can interact with it by sending it RPC commands. If you all the information is in that tweet. But yeah, I love what you said, Don, about okay, well, there's local laws, there's state laws, and I remember in the good old days of the early days of Craigslist, where you could pretty much just list anything. It was basically it replaced the whole idea at that time was to replace newspaper classifieds, which it successfully did. you don't have those anymore, but now there's just a ton of filtering, and also there's a ton of spam. You get, particularly if you try and shop for a car, like that's a big enough of a purchase. You'd be willing to drive across state lines if that's what it took. But it's just really hard to see it because there's so many people, like car salesmen, who are just like, they put every possible tag in there, even though it has nothing to do with what they're actually selling.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that, so beyond this idea of filtering versus censorship, another thing that it adds there is you pay to write, so it prevents spam in the sense that it's not free. You have to pay something to get the ad into the system. But then in the case of torlist.cash, which is going to be more focused on websites, the ranking of the websites can be based on your merit, your PSF token merit. So, but a similar system could be implemented in any type of poultry. You could have some way of essentially like if you've done a certain number of sales on the platform, that could be tracked and could make your listings rise to the top the more successful sales you actually conduct. Maybe that's a flawed example, but there are ways there's multiple ways to attack this spam problem without having some sort of central body dictate the rules, to just have the good stuff naturally rise to the top.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned, spam for, ads, but I mean, I've sold a lot of stuff on, different marketplaces. I mean, you've also got the issue with spam, offers, massive amounts of bots that come in, with these like templates, Nigerian type stuff. So if you had a pay to read or a pay to contact, maybe they would have to, go through the message.fullstack instead of, a classic email service or something like that, something it costs to contact, where you can just do like a mass campaign of replying to every ad out there.
Mm-hmm. Good idea.
There's also something to the fact that, like, if you do have a paid to contact, like email type of thing, I'm less likely to just give out my email address then, because I get spam because everybody's like, here, put in your email address. If it's something that, and I do have an email address that I am very hesitant to give out to people, and I only use for certain things, because the other stuff is like, you got to sign up. But if I did have one that was like encrypted, secure, and that was my real primary, I would be very careful about who I give that to, because I do have to pay to receive and read and send messages. So
shout out to Shama Chancellor, because this is his baby, this idea of paying to send a message. His entire everything he's built in the last few years is based on this idea. So yep, it's important. It's a good idea.
All right. And I put up the chat.fullstack.cash website for people that are watching the YouTubes, and we will be going through and getting everything that we talked about today. I would like to put a call out to anybody that is watching. If you want to help to moderate and take down some of the stuff, the websites we talk about and things of that nature, we could definitely use some help with that so that we can post them later. So if there is somebody out there that is not as big in the development side, but you are very media savvy, as far as cameras, running OBS, stuff like that, get in touch with us. We'd love to talk to you and have you help out. So I think we're running up on about an hour 20 minutes here. We should probably wrap it up for today. Is there any last comments anybody wants to say before we sign off here?
Great meeting as usual.
Yeah, no, I love this. I love this new format with it's a little bit more ordered. Looking forward to like future meetings and seeing how it manifests.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron, for taking the lead on this.
Yeah. I
really appreciate
have
it.
to say the same thing, Aaron. You've done a fabulous job of getting this community focused. So this is great. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you. You're making me blush. So, with that, guys, Daniel, did you have any last words?
No.
You're just gonna sit there and look studly, huh? Okay. Now, we want to thank everybody that joined us for the live stream. Thank you. If you're watching us afterwards, please get in touch with us through the Telegram channel and we're the Permissionless Software Foundation. If you're interested in contacting me, I'm at Aaron Shoemaker, spelled Aaron Shoemaker, SHOEMAKER. In fact, I'll put that up right now so you can see my name. And on the YouTubes, wrong one. There we go. I just launched two of them at the same time. All right.
And psfoundation.cash is our website where you can, if you scroll to the bottom, you can find a link to the Telegram channel.
And I'll put that up as well. And so there's psfoundation.cash. And if anybody is interested in helping us with the development side of their developer school, we'd love to hear from you. If you're interested in being a part of a developer school, we would love to hear from you. Please reach out. We keep things very open. So with that, we will see you guys all later. And next week is the technical steering committee. So tune in for that. Any of you tech heads that want to get really into the weeds, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. And then we will be back with this Comm meeting in 2 weeks from now. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. And we will see you guys next time.
Cheers.